Friday, Miami. This is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, a real estate podcast about what's going on in the South Florida market of Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. I'm Peter Zalewski, a condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. I'm joined here by my co-host, my partner, the moderator, no one else but Daniel Hernandez from Compass Real Estate over in Coconut Grove. He does single-family houses as well as condos. Daniel, we got a lot of big shots coming into South Florida, especially Coconut Grove buying houses like Larry Page and Google. We got Ken Griffin or Ken Billions from Citadel right up the street. Who's the next one? I mean, what's it like to rub elbows with all these people?
Well, they're not in Monty's down by my office. I think they're going to the new place they opened down the street under the Mr. C. It's called La Specialita, which is Italian for the Specialita, obviously. I got you away from Flanagan's yesterday. We had breakfast at Versailles, did we not?
We did. We were able to get in there. I'm not used to necessarily being able to be allowed inside. I'm typically at the Bentanita, so that was a nice pleasure. Thanks for talking to whoever you did in order to get me in there.
Had to twist some arms for it. But anyway, folks, hey, if you're just joining us for the first time today, we got a wonderful episode for you, episode number 47. 5 more until our first anniversary. I know Peter hasn't got me anything yet, but he's been thinking about it. I know. So if you look at the bottom left of your screen, that's what we call the rundown, folks. And the rundown, it's a few stories we pick every week, week after week. We've got 5 of them for you today. And so since we've got you for an hour, we're going to talk about each of these for 7 to 10 minutes. And at the end of each topic, we're either going to buy, we're going to sell, or we're going to hold. And holding is kind of, well, there's a lot of holding patterns down here in Miami these days because, Peter doesn't like to piss anybody off, right, Peter? No.
Haven't done it. Never do it. Nope.
So, speaking of pissing people off, there's some developers who I don't think their lenders are taking their phone calls these days. And maybe their brand licensing partners might not be taking their phone calls either. And we're talking about branded condos. Because in the past several months, you have Missoni getting litigated for construction defects. You got the Mandarin doesn't have anything going on, but they are imploding it. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. We got the Mercedes-Benz, Mr. Michael Stern, JDS Development, gentleman out of California, folks called Cottonwood, bought his foreclosed upon paper. It's about $80 million in principal and another $20 million in interest, reportedly getting $53,000 in interest a day.
That's not bad. That's definitely more than beer money.
So they're going to have to refinance, figure something out. They were in talks about a $700 and something million construction loan. I'm sure they'll figure it out. But if you're a depositor in one of these buildings, yikes. And if you're Mercedes, if you're the VP or the president of marketing for Mercedes, and this is your first branded condo tower, are you thinking to yourself, Peter, was that such a good idea? They didn't bet the jockey on that, Pete.
I got to wonder, Mercedes, and I raised this issue a few years ago when it first came on. This is before we started our show. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary. But, we had a discussion about the Mercedes location, and it's actually in West Brickell, which you're now trying to rebrand. I would say, and I said back then, it is a C- location. You got an Ace Hardware down the store. You got a couple gas stations where you can fill your tires with air. You got a Wendy's where you can get the $4 value meal. You get maybe a Frosty on the side. There's a McDonald's over there. There's a Moe's Burrito. And you're going to try to get Class A to a trophy pricing per square foot. Wasn't going to happen. Shouldn't happen. If you were going to have a German car maker there, it should have been Volkswagen.
Volkswagen. Hey, I got a T1. It's a great car. It's sturdy. It's dependable. Something isn't making sense here. Well, hey, car. I didn't even put this one in my notes because I had forgotten about it. It's been out of the news. What about the Edition?
Aston Martin.
So you have all of these brands, and we talk a lot about the Carillon, FKA, formerly known as Canyon Ranch, and the HOA.
Carillon, whoa.
It does have a great spot. What other branding deals? Let's flip the coin. Let's look on the positive note. What other branding deals have done well?
Well, if you take a look at it, originally you had the Trump That's the one that kind of unveiled it all. That was Gil Deser and his father, Michael Deser, old man Deser. They came down here. They brought the Trump brand. It was a New York sort of hustle. It was a way to differentiate your project from, say, Jacaranda East, Jacaranda North, Jacaranda West, Jacaranda South, blue this, blue that. So they actually applied the brand, and they were able to get a little bit of a bump at it at the time because Donald Trump, he wasn't the president. He was running a show, or he was on a show called The Apprentice, and he had all the attention. He was all over the media. That's when we had 4 channels. You had cable television, and it was the thing. It was before we kind of went to where we were. That followed suit. They came up with the Armani Casa. They brought on the Porsche Design Tower. You had the Canyon Ranch. And what it did is it basically added a little bit of a vig. It played to the vanity. It played to the market brand recognition that a lot of buyers had. And these developers were able to differentiate themselves. Typically, the only reason you bring on a brand is nobody knows who the hell you are, and there's some doubts about you. So you're getting behind the brand, or 2, you're trying to squeeze every little extra nickel out of that would-be buyer, and therefore you bring in the brand. Otherwise, nobody needs the branding.
And so, do the back of the napkin with me, Peter. You were talking to a developer on another one of your pods the other week. It's about a 10% vig. Is that around what it is? You got to pay to the brand, the licensing fee.
Yeah, a buddy of mine's doing a project, and he had to pay a 10% vig for an international brand. It's like fashion as well as furniture goods. So he had to pay a 10% vig, but in return, he's able to charge 20% more. So basically,
you're making a spread on whatever you're paying. And then I was, as I was researching this earlier this morning, then the HOA also pays a small vig annually to that brand to maintain sort of that air of haughtiness, air of luxury. What they should have done,
just like the Ace Hardware, that's a block and a half down from where the Mercedes site is going. That could just be a regular hardware store. That could be like a Shell Lumber, a one-off independent. But you want that Ace brand hardware, Ace Hardware brand, so you go ahead and you pay a vig. So it's kind of the same concept. It's like Subway. Are you just selling sandwiches on bread, or are you a Subway? Well, Subway's probably not a very good thing ever since the guy Jared, but that's kind of a different story. So you got to pay attention to the brands. If the brand goes sideways, now you're kind of upside down. A lot of people who bought Trump projects, if they weren't necessarily of that political affiliation, they wanted to get out. They wanted to sell. They wanted to change the brand. So it can go one way or another. It is polarizing. It can be polarizing at the same point. It can be a real selling point.
So I was reading on our buddy David Siddons is a condo analyst down here. He does a lot of podcasts. You might have seen it. He did a study and he looked at it that branded units have historically outperformed the market. Hospitality brand units. So these are your St. Regis's, your Ritz-Carltons, your Four Seasons. And I think, there's only so many hospitality branded companies, but then there's a ton of other companies. You got the car companies, you got the furniture companies.
Yes.
We joked about it. You could have an HVAC company branding a condo. And those kind of dilute.
We got a strip joint.
There you go.
Joint.
Cabaret.
Do not call it a strip joint. They get very offended. It's a cabaret. The 11, they got 2 towers, 1,000 units within one block. So, and then we got the wellness. Don't forget about the wellness, Daniel.
Wellness. So Knight Frank did a 2025 global branded resident survey. Branded resident schemes globally have grown from 169 in 2011 to over 600 today, and they're projected to reach over 1,000 by 2030. So there's only so many hospitality brands to choose from. And these hospitality brands don't want to go to Peter and Daniel, first-time condo developers. They want the Perez's of the world, which is why the Perez partnered up with St. Regis. They want the Nadim Ashis of the world, who developed the Four Seasons and Surfside. Johnny and Joe ain't going to get the Mandarin Oriental. These guys want to tie themselves to seasoned developers. And maybe that's why Mercedes partnered up with the gentleman who has, defaulted on his payments. Because he couldn't get the insert sexy hospitality brand.
Well, I'm not making any connection here, other than the fact that the common denominator is the same developer. There's also a brand called Dolce Gabbana that's going to be going up on Brickell Avenue with the same developer. And I'm not saying one thing has anything to do with the other, so do not accuse me of anything. I don't want to cease and desist. But I'm saying the brands are willing to come into the market. Some of them see it as a way to get into Miami. Remember, Silicon Valley does technology. South Florida and Miami, we do condos. This is kind of what we do. We are R&D. This is where everybody sort of comes to play. And, it might be an opportunity to kind of break through. Remember, Four Seasons came here. They came in here with Manny Medina. He was a well-known developer. This is going back to the early 2000s, before September 11th. And at the time, they were going to put up the tallest office or the tallest condo building in all of South Florida. And that kind of went sideways. So, there's always risk involved, but everybody's kind of got their eye on South Florida. You come here, you learn how it's done, and then you can basically do it elsewhere. I will tell you, when Ritz-Carlton, when they got involved with a project on Alton Road, right where the old Heart Institute was, they had never done a residence on its own. They had only been involved as a condo hotel component. But the one that went up on the Lagos Country Club on the golf course, that one was straight up residential. And then what they morphed it into is they saw this as a revenue generator in one way. And what you would do is you'd fly the flag of Ritz-Carlton or Four Seasons, whatever it is, and you'd bring in all the staff and you train them. So those people would all be trained, and then they would be going out there. But didn't have anything to do with the hotel and its actual core business. This was something where they simply taught people, they indoctrinated people how to run it a certain way, and then they threw it into their system, almost like a high-end timeshare. I'm being sarcastic, obviously, but.
So on the pre-construction sales side, though, and I know you're on the buy side, do you do a lot of pre-construction buys, or do you only do distressed stuff?
Well, typically when and if I'm working with any kind of buyer who might be going in there, what we see on the pre-construction side, it's better to go after it once it's actually delivered. It comes online, because remember, pre-construction is a futures contract. So you are betting by putting down your money that in the future, 3 to 4, 5 years from now, depending on who the developer is, the valuation is going to be higher than the price you're committing to today. A lot of people sort of get caught on it, just like the people get caught up on buying options right now. It could be a great thing. It could be a fantastic thing. But if you get a wide shift in the marketplace, you could be on the wrong side of the trade. And now that it's 50% deposits, it makes it that much more challenging, because the developers basically, if they do it right, they got their costs covered. And if you walk on it, they almost want it, because they're just basically going to keep your money. When it was 20% deposits, the last go around 02 to 2011, it was much easier to walk on it. This time it's harder. It's harder to walk on it. But, from a pre-construction perspective, unless that developer has done a number of projects, you are basically rolling the dice, and chances are the developer's probably going to crap out. Once they've done 3, then they're official. Before that, it's going to be tough sledding.
So at what point, we said addition, we said Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes has 700 and something units. The addition was going to probably have 300 or 400 units at least. So if you guys are out there, if you're one of these some odd 1,000 persons who put down a deposit, email us, call us, tell us what's going on. Do you want your money back? Are you going to sit and wait? What is going through your mind right now? Because if I was a depositor in one of these buildings, A, I'd be pissed. B, I'd say, hey guys, you got to give me my money back. But you're kind of screwed, because those developer contracts are very, very one-sided.
Well, what I will tell you, and this is the worst case scenario, we are in a gaming society where everybody likes to play games, and there's different levels and this and that. Where you do not want to end up is the Honeycomb building on Flagler Street across from Dade County Courthouse. Honeycomb building, you look at it from the outside, you say, this is terrible architecture. It looks like a beehive. That is the bankruptcy court. That is the risk of all these condo projects when they go sideways. If you end up at the bankruptcy court, remember, if you go, do not bring your cell phone. They will not allow you into the courthouse with that. But that being said, that's where the stuff gets worked out. And Daniel, I'm not an attorney and I'm not trying to practice law, but if I'm owed money and the developer goes tits up, as they say in Tampa, chances are I'm turning into a creditor.
Get in line.
Behind the lender, behind the first position, behind the bridge, behind Uncle Sam with the taxes, behind Tomas Regalado looking for his property. Get behind everybody else, and hopefully there's something left over for you.
All right. Buy, sell, hold, bad for branding.
I would have to be a buy, and I think this is going to sort of change the tide, at least for the short term. But it also gives you an opportunity if you are looking for distress. I'd be targeting these particular projects because chances are they got higher dollar amounts, and therefore you probably gonna have more people willing to kind of walk or cut a deal on the way out. They probably
Yeah,
got more
but
money.
I mean, but that would require them going BK because they're not going to let you trade. They're not going to allow you to trade the contract before it's either delivered or, I mean, what? What do you do?
It's Miami. Everything is negotiable.
All right, I'm a buy on it as well. We're talking about hotels. You were talking about the Four Seasons, but you know who was the first luxury one here? And that was the Mandarin Oriental, Peter. And they are, actually, it's more like ta 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 ta, and then it's going to fall down in 20 seconds. But that's happening this Saturday. No, I'm sorry, this Sunday morning. Anybody, really, it's going to be a sight to see. Environmentalists, don't yell at me, but I mean, the cleanup work behind this is going to be awful. They said it's going to take months, but they are imploding the controlled demolition, the Mandarin Oriental Hotel on Brickell Key, formerly known or officially known as Clawton Island. And why are they doing this? Well, because the hotel is old and they can no longer get, the $700 a night. You know what the average daily rate on that when it opened in 2001 was, Peter?
No idea.
Between $500 and $700 a night in 2001.
Big money. Wow.
Big money. And then they had that place Azul, which was a Michelle Bernstein restaurant. I mean, that property did so much to put Brickell on the map because there was nothing there. They hadn't built Asia on the north end of Brickell Key. They hadn't built the Carbonell on the north end of Brickell Key. I mean, Swire, how many buildings did Swire put up on Brickell Key? 8 or 9?
I'm trying to do the
including the office
right
buildings.
Here.
It's got to be 8 or 9, huh?
Yeah. You got to pair with the office building. You have Carbonell. Then you're going to have Asia. You're going to have the Tequestas 1, 2, and 3. Brickell Key 1 and 2 was somebody else. I think the St. Louis was somebody else, and it kind of looks it. Cavoursier Center, Cavoursier Courts. Yeah, it's probably I would say 80%, 75 to 80% of all properties that are on that man-made island that was basically created when they dredged the Miami River so people could get to the Royal Palms Hotel because Henry Flagler, that's where he had his hotel, and he was in a pissing match with old man Brickell and his wife, Mary Brickell, so they needed a place to dump the dredge from the river so the boats could get in. You know what they did? They left it right outside William Brickell's trading post.
Just put a little pile of dirt.
And Mary Brickell supposedly used to complain about how it's